This is Appendix B, page 1. In this section, we'll be graphing equations. We'll be working with the rectangular coordinate system. In example 1, we are going to first find ordered pair solutions of equations. And it says to find 3 ordered pairs, so we can have different answers. I'm going to make a table of x, y values, and if I choose 0 for x, if I plug in 0 for x, then we have negative 2 times 0 plus 5 is 0 plus 5, which is 5 for y. If we plug in 1 for x, then we get negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, plus 5 is 3 for y. And then if I plug in 2 for x, we have negative 4 plus 5 is 1 for y. So those are 3 ordered pairs that are solutions to that equation. For part B, now this equation has x by itself, so it's easier if we choose values for y and then solve for x. So what if y is 0? Then x would be 0 plus 1 is 1, the cube root of 1 is 1. What if y is negative 1? Then x is going to be 0, right? Because negative 1 plus 1 is 0, and the cube root of 0 is 0. And then if y is, I'm going to choose a nice value. So like if we have negative 2 for y, do you see how the radicand will be negative 1, and the cube root of negative 1 is negative 1. So I chose numbers so I didn't have to work with decimals. So just comparing a and b, for a, we came up with x values and solved for y, and then for b, we came up with y values and solved for x. So you can do whatever's easier. For c, do you see how y is by itself? So we'll choose values for x and then plug in the y's. So for this one, we will choose values for x and then solve for y. So if x is, say, negative 1, we have to be careful because then we have y is equal to negative and then negative 1 squared plus 1. Do you see how negative 1 squared is 1? So we have negative 1 plus 1, which is 0. And if x is 0, if we square 0, we get 0, so y is 1. And if x is 1, then negative 1 squared is negative 1 plus 1 is 0. And so we have 3 ordered pairs that are solutions for that equation. Now for example 2, do you see how we have the same equations? So what I'm going to do is just take those values that I came up with for x and y and plot them. Remember the rectangular coordinate system, we have the x-axis and the y-axis. So for the first equation, plotting 0, 5, it's on the y-axis, 1, 3, in the first quadrant, and then 2, 1's also in the first quadrant. This is a straight line. Whenever you have a linear equation, that's when both x and y are just to the first power, it's going to be a straight line. For the next example, if we plot the points 1, 0, 0, negative 1, and negative 1, negative 2, this one also looks like it's a straight line, but it's not. So what I'm going to do is go back and plot a few more points. So since I already made a table up in example 1, I'm just going to extend it down. Let's plug in 7 for y and solve for x. So then we have 7 plus 1 is 8, and the cube root of 8 is 2. Oops. So we have 2, 7. And you can see that this graph gets pretty steep, and you could plot more points, but if you graph this, it is a nice curve and it goes down like this. It's very steep. And then the third one, let's plot the points. We have negative 1, 0, 0, 1, and 1, 0. Now this one, it looks like it might be upside down V shape, but if you remember y equals x squared is the shape of a parabola. Well, this is a parabola that opens downward, and you could plot more points if you want to see what it looks like, but it's going to go like this. So that's a parabola.